Welcome to Pitch Perfect, this session. My name is Lou DeFalco. I'm a National Board of Trustees member, and I'm also a member of our Greater Illinois chapter. So I come from Chicago. I have two boys that both have CF. That's Dylan and Michael, and that's my wife, Mary, who wasn't able to make it here today, but I think she's probably watching on the live stream. So hi, Mary. Hi, boys, if you're watching. So I'll tell you a little bit more about my story in a minute and introduce our panelists, but let me just first kind of set it up what this session is all about today. So if we could go to the next slide. So this session is going to be all about dissecting and figuring out how to understand complex data and turn that into fundraising. How we're going to turn something like this into a great fundraising pitch, right? And if you were impressed with Mike Boyle and Bill Scatch yesterday, you're going to be real impressed with us today once we do this. So that's absolutely not what we're going to talk about today, right? So sometimes we see slides like that and there's a lot of data, and I think the whole point of this session is the data and some of that stuff doesn't mean anything without the stories that are behind it. And so this session is going to be all about how to tell your CF story and how to sell your CF story to try to get the fundraising dollars and goals that we're going after. And I think, the important thing to remember, and all you people know this, but we're going to reemphasize it today, is we have an incredible story to tell, right? How fortunate are we to be part of an organization that has had the progress that it's had, that continues to do great things, that continues to adapt and change in order to continue to further, the mission of the organization. And so I know I'm always, especially as a parent of two kids that both have CF, just constantly feeling blessed about it's very easy. What we need to do is very easy. We just need to take action and get out there and tell that story to as many people as possible. And so today I'm blessed with a great panel that's going to discuss that. So people might be wondering, and you might not be able to see her, but Colleen is sitting there on the iPad. Because of travel issues, she wasn't able to make it. And so it's bittersweet. The O'Connell family are from Chicago as well, so I'm very close personal friends with Colleen. I'm sad she's not here. I'm kind of happy that her husband, Matt, is not here. And I don't know if he's listening, but if he was here, I would have probably been up at the bar late last night with Matt. Anybody that knows Matt knows we would have been out at the bar late, and I might have missed this session this morning. So I'm here, I'm refreshed, but luckily, hopefully, you'll be able to hear Colleen live via FaceTime. So a couple housekeeping things, and then we'll get right into our panelists. So I've given you a bit of an overview of the session. I think, as you've been hearing throughout, for the people that are either here in the room or watching the live stream, you can ask questions. We'll have some time for questions at the very end of the session. And I think if you open up your browser and you type in cff.cnf, maybe it's up on the screen. No, it's not. cff.cnf.io, that you can submit a question that way. And so what we're going to do is you're going to hear from these panelists. They're going to tell a little bit about their stories, and then we're going to do some exercises. You'll see a number on your table. So we kind of have three exercises where you're going to use the panelist story in a hypothetical kind of fake situation around a fundraising pitch and how to use their story to effectively get after the fundraising dollars that we're trying to raise. So that's really the objective today. And so let me tell you a little bit about my story, and then I'll introduce Colleen, Clay, and Stephanie, who are all up here on the stage with me. So I mentioned I have two boys with CF. So Michael is going to be 10 at the end of this month, and Dylan just turned 8 in January. And so we had no history of CF in our family. My wife and I knew nothing about it. And back when Michael was born, it was before newborn screening was around in Illinois. And so luckily, when Mary was pregnant, they had done blood work, and they had identified, hey, you have this mutated CF gene. You should get your husband tested. He probably doesn't carry it, and you've got nothing to worry about. So then I went in and I got tested, and sure enough, I also had a mutated gene, and we actually both have different genes. But and so we kind of looked at that and said, okay, there's a 75% chance we're going to be fine, and there's a 25% chance we might have a kid that has CF. And at that time, we still didn't know anything about it, and I really didn't even look that into it. And then Michael was born, and he looked like a totally healthy baby, and they didn't have newborn screening, so we took him home from the hospital, and we thought there was nothing wrong. And over those first kind of couple months, he was not putting on any weight. And my wife, I think, always in the back of her head was thinking, hey, I know we're both carriers. She would go on the internet, she would see things, and she's like, I'm really worried that maybe he has cystic fibrosis. And so we kind of pushed it to get tested, and so we talked to our pediatrician, and they said, yeah, you should go get a sweat test. And so I remember it was a date in July. It was 2.5 months after Michael was born. So it was July 13th. I think it was a Friday the 13th, actually. And if anybody knows Margaret Castellina, there's a lot of things about the number 13, and we're very close with the Castellinas, and so it's one of those weird things in life. But we took him in for a sweat test. I'll never forget it. Afterwards, I had a work event. I'm a partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and so I was, we went into the city, did the sweat test. Mary headed home with Michael. I got on a train. We had an event at Arlington Racetrack in Chicago. We were going this big outing, and I didn't know that we were going to find out that same day, but I'll never forget it. Mary, got a call, and sure enough, Michael's sweat chloride level was, well above the level where they diagnosed CF, and she called me, and I was on a train stuck going out to this place, and it was, holy cow, that moment changed my life forever. And that was the day we got his diagnosis. And I remember, she met me out at Arlington, and we went right into our CF care center that day. And we met Dr. McCauley, who's our doctor and the care team. And it was a very overwhelming experience. But, we both decided, hey, we're gonna get in this thing and do everything we can to try to give them the best life possible. And so that was kind of my story. And then when Dylan was born, we knew Dylan before we even had him. We knew that he had CF as well. And so they're both doing very well. I'm happy to say they're both really active in their sports. So I'll tell you some more about that later. But that's my story. So why don't I kick it over to Colleen, and hopefully you can hear her. And Colleen, why don't you share with us a little bit about your story?
Okay. Hello, everybody. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm so bummed I can't be there, but thank you, Amanda and Lou, for getting me on FaceTime. I want to just tell my quick story about my son, Brady. He is my oldest, and he was born with cystic fibrosis. We found out right about 2 days after he was born. He had emergency surgery, and he had meconium ileus, and we knew right away that he had cystic fibrosis. Immediately, obviously we're devastated. We don't know what to do. He's our first child. And immediately we reached out to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And I cannot stress to you how incredible the foundation was to our family. And they immediately became an extension of our family. We really, our community really came together to help us. We have a huge network of family and friends in our community, and we really went to them for support. We spent our first 3 months in the hospital, so we were able to connect with our community. And we decided at that point in time in the hospital that we needed to try to figure out how to turn a horrible situation into something positive. We really got the support from the community, and we thought we needed to give it back. So from there on, we decided that we were going to join the fight to find a cure for cystic fibrosis. And we felt that by telling our story and remaining positive has been really the key element in people following us and really wanting to be a part of the cure. We started off with a Great Strides team, obviously, the first year Brady was born. And, we started in a bar and after the walk, and everyone came back to the bar, and we had a little bit of a party. And every year it grew, and more people wanted to become involved. And in our situation, Brady's kind of had a rocky road, so there was a lot of hospital stays, a lot of IVs and feeding tubes and all that kind of stuff. So people were following our story, but the whole time we really had our faith and our positive attitude of in the foundation and in the fact that, we're going to get through this. And I think people were kind of inspired by that when we told our story about it. So year after year, our Great Strides team got larger, and our after party got larger, and people really wanted to be a part of it. So we the best thing that we thought is, how do we form a platform to be able to tell our story? So finally, we decided to move away from Great Strides and do more of a passion fundraising event. And I believe she's in the crowd, but Pam Baker from Atlanta has an unbelievable fundraiser called Shamrockin' for a Cure. And we really latched on to her fabulous idea and decided that we needed to start this fundraiser. We're an Irish family from Chicago. What more of a better platform to kind of tell our story? So what we did is we decided to start making that more of our central point of how we tell our story. So every year, it's our 5th year that we've been doing Shamrockin' in Chicago. We have been able to tell our story to our community. And, I've been on, conference calls and different ways on how we're able to get more people involved. And people always come to us and say, you know what, we feel really bad. How can we help? How can, we're so inspired by, your positive attitude and how you're able to manage all of these things. We're all CF parents. We know it's a juggling act, and behind the scenes, we all, are crazy, and we're trying to get everything done, and there's so many moving pieces in cystic fibrosis. But and people are always so amazed at how it works. And so we really we tell our story, and we tell it in a positive way that, as Preston said last night, I mean, we're the best story in medicine, and the way that you want to be a part of this cure. And so we feel that we were able to go into Brady's school and tell the story. We were able to go to, people ask us, all around town, kind of what's going on. So we're, on our aspect of it, we're really open with our story. And, some people aren't, and that's fine too. But I felt like the way that we tell our story is we don't really hide anything. We're positive about it, and we really give hope, and that the foundation is behind us, and we're going to find a cure. I really have to just tell one quick story before our end. We just had our fundraiser at the end of February, and this year we had about 800 people come to our fundraiser, and I have to say that a couple hundred of those people, I had no idea who they were. So it really, the community is really behind this foundation and really wants to be a part of it. And, so we get up on stage, we tell our story, we tell everybody why we're here, we tell everybody why we're raising money. And we did a bid for the cure. People raised money, raised their hand, how they want to donate. So a couple days later, the numbers come back, and we find out who were these high bidders and all this kind of stuff. And I saw a $5,000 donation from a couple that I had no idea who they were. And I quickly kind of called some friends. Do you know who this couple is? And my one friend got back to me and said, you know what, we brought them to this fundraiser. They've been hearing all about it. They really wanted to be part of it. And they were so touched when they heard our story, and they heard the story behind the foundation and how they're not going to stop until they find a cure for everybody. Because my son has the nonsense mutation, so we've got a while before we can really see some drugs coming down the pipeline. And so even though that's the case in our situation, we have so much faith in the foundation that they are going to stand behind us, and we're going to wait until everyone finds a cure. And they were so inspired by that story that they have decided that they want to make CF their charity from now on. They've never met Matt and I. They've never met our son. And just by telling our story and just remaining positive and being honest about it and really telling what the foundation does, I think goes, so far. So that's kind of how we stay positive. That's how, we're able to fundraise, and that's kind of how we're able to share our story to the community.
Thanks so much. Let's get a big round of applause for Colleen. And, I can tell you she's probably being a little modest. I mean, this thing started, like she said, as a little bar party after Great Strides, and it's grown to one of the single biggest individual fundraising events of the chapter. So 800 people this year. I mean, that's as many people as come to our largest gala, which is the Chef's Gala, which raises a ton of money. And it literally, their shamrocking event, it's the second largest individual fundraising event that our entire Greater Illinois chapter, which is a big chapter, puts on in a year. So they've done a tremendous job. And, I actually really do wish Matt was here, because Matt is out at every single, he's the chapter president in Chicago, and he is at every single event that we do. And he's constantly meeting people, telling their story. They're both amazing at constantly thanking people that come to these things. And so I'm sure that, Colleen and Matt are already reaching out to this family that was new, that now is going to be a part of our CF family. So they do a tremendous job. So let's give her a big round of applause. And Colleen, everybody say bye to Colleen. We'll dial you back in when we regroup later, okay? Okay, so next, sorry. All right. So next, I guess my mic stopped.
Did I do that?
Next, let's meet Clay. So Clay, tell us a little bit about your story.
Thank you, Lou. Good morning. Yeah, it's morning. First of all, I love the title of this breakout, Pitch Perfect, because that is my daughter Emily's favorite movie. She likes to talk about acapella, awkward, and all the fun things that they talk about in Pitch Perfect. So, great title, whoever thought of that. But my story is, Emily is my youngest of 3 kids. My wife, Lori, is in the room. Raise your hand. And Emily was born in April 30th, 1997. So she'll be 20 years old later this month. And she was diagnosed also in July of 1997. And I remember that day because I was on the golf course. Lori had taken Emily to the doctor because she was not gaining weight. And I thought it was just some routine thing that we would say, change your diet or something like that. And I got a call and they said, come to Scottish Rite Hospital in Atlanta. And I met Jeff Blumenthal, the gastroenterologist, who just told me for the first time what cystic fibrosis even was. And I remember that day because he was positive, and he talked about how your daughter will be able to go to the college of her choice. Your daughter will be able to be a great student, to be an athlete, to have great friends, and then you get to the sobering part of, but in 1997, the median life expectancy was early 30s. And so as a parent, Lori and I had to come to grips with that concept. So we rocked through the first years of her life, doing the drill, taking care of the care that was necessary, and she did very well. And as she became a teen, we started to see some of those quarterly clinic visits and see lung function start to decline, and had our first hospitalization when she was probably 12. And we realized then that the sobering side of cystic fibrosis was something that we just learned to cope with. We're very fortunate that we've got a great circle of friends and supporters through all aspects of our lives, and we have great faith that great things are to come. So Emily today is a freshman at the University of Georgia, go Dogs, and she went through Rush and joined a sorority and has great friends. She has a roommate. She lives in the dorm. Her roommate was introduced to her as a friend of a friend, and she quickly became the perfect roommate because she understood, she was supportive. It was not something we had to hide. It was not anything that was a stigma. And that has been just so valuable. And the other greatest thing about Casey, Emily's roommate, is that she sleeps like a log. Because Emily coughs. Emily coughs a lot. And my biggest fear was, oh my God, this roommate's going to want to move out after 2 months because she won't be able to sleep. And every time I see Casey, I say, Casey, is Emily keeping you up at night? And she says, no, I don't hear anything. So, yay for Casey. So that's kind of Emily's story and our family's story. And the concerns that we face as parents is, what do the next 10 years bring? And how will she respond to the treatment and the care? And will we go down the road of transplantation? Or how will she cope with it, and relationships and her mental state? Will she become depressed? All those kind of things weigh on us. But we are glass half full people at our house, and we think of the positive side of how life goes. So then my involvement with the foundation started 6 years ago, really is a serious engagement with the foundation. And it's funny how all good things kind of start by accident. Chubb Insurance, you heard last night at the award ceremony, Jim Darling was recognized because Chubb Insurance Company has been part of the cystic fibrosis story for many years, and I'm in the insurance business. I'm on the agency side, so I sell Chubb Insurance's products along with about 50 other insurance companies to my clients who are families and businesses, liability insurance, property insurance, all this kind of stuff. And in 2011, I was scheduled to go to an agent meeting with Chubb Insurance, and I had to call my host about a week before the conference, and I said, Scott, I can't come to your agent meeting. It was at the Breakers in Palm Beach. I wanted to go. And I said, my daughter has this disease called cystic fibrosis, and it's not life-threatening, but she's got to go in the hospital for a couple of weeks, and I just shouldn't be away from home. And he said, wow, Clay, I didn't know that your family faced that. What you didn't know is that Chubb Insurance has been supporting great strides in other cities, and Atlanta, the Atlanta branch of Chubb, is going to participate in the Great Strides Walk this year, and we thought it would be really fun to partner with one of our agencies that we do business with. Would you guys like to do it with us? And I thought, wow, Providence, natural, sure. So Snelling's Walters Insurance Agency, my company, and Chubb went down to the Great Strides Walk in 2011. We met Molly Taggart and some of the CF chapter staff, and we had a great time. We had a great experience. We were appreciated, and that was the beginning of what is now known as Insure the Cure. My business partners rallied around me and our family after 2011, and they said, Clay, let's make this the thing that our little company, we have 57 employees, that our little company does for the community. It affects your family. It's a great cause. They're effective in their using of the money we raise, all the positive things you've heard all weekend. And so in year 2, we said, hey, let's ask some of our vendors, people that do business with us, that want us to be good partners with them, and ask them to support us. So we sent out some letters and asked for money, and we got money. We got checks in the mail. It was great. Our fundraising increased in year 2. In year 3, we said, why wouldn't these companies want to do something great for their teams and educate them about a great disease and come and walk with us? So in year 3, we went from 2 teams to 8 teams that were all insurance organizations in Atlanta. And the snowball started rolling downhill. And in 2016, we had 40 insurance organizations participate in the Great Strides Walk. This year, our goal is 50. We have 45 confirmed. We got 5 more to go. The walk is next month. So if you got 5 insurance organizations in Atlanta that you can think of, I'd love to get their names. But the great story about this, you've heard about the CF story of how good we are as an organization. But I'm proud of my industry because, insurance doesn't always have the greatest reputation in the business world as far as, what we stand for. But I'm here to tell you, my industry is no different than construction or banking or real estate or whatever. When folks understand the cause that we have, the underdog image that we have, because on our own, this is part of my story, on our own, we can't do it. We need people who are not directly impacted by this disease to step in and help us. And that has resonated. And so that's why we've gone to 40 and hopefully 50 teams this year. And over that 6-year period of time, we've raised over $1.2 million for the foundation. And we only consider to take this further. I loved Colleen's story about shamrocking, because Pam's sitting in the front here, and shamrocking is an awesome endeavor. We would love to see Ensure the Cure happening around the United States. And we've had a little bit of traction there. We've got Kansas City and New York doing it. Nashville has been involved. And we're hoping that if you're from another place where you think the insurance industry can benefit from this, please come talk to me, because we see Ensure the Cure happening around the country until we find a cure for this. So that's my story.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Clay. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. So now you've heard from a few parents. Now we're going to have Stephanie tell her story. She's got a little bit of a different perspective on CF. So Stephanie, why don't you tell us about your story?
Okay, can you hear me? My name is Stephanie, and my story began about 20 years ago in 1997. I met a great man, and I'm trying not to get choked up here. I met a great man. I started dating him. He looked healthy. He was smart. He was funny. He was everything I wanted in a husband. My mother-in-law's here, by the way. I wanted to recognize her. I can't look at her right now. He told me after about 2 months of dating him that he had cystic fibrosis. I didn't understand what that was. I was like, whatever, we're all good. Life's going to be good. I love this man. I slowly learned what it was, but as I said, he looked healthy. Everything was fine. He's been very fortunate and blessed to have relatively great health. We got married. We have a daughter. She's 14. We struggled with that. It was not an easy task by any means, and it was hard on the relationship. There's a lot of different issues with CF when you deal with an adult. Fertility being one, and that is a really hard thing for both people to deal with. I was a fundraiser in my profession, and I thought we needed to tell our story at all cost. Michael was in medical school when I met him, and we went through medical school and residency. It was not something he really felt comfortable sharing. It was medical school and residency was very hard. He was working 100-hour work weeks. He did not want anyone to perceive him as sick or unhealthy by any means. And we survived it. It was great. We had our daughter during that time. Everything was moving in the right direction, and still is. We moved to Austin. He started a practice. I tried to talk to him into getting involved with the CF Foundation. I'm not quite ready. I don't want to be a practicing physician and have people think I'm sick. I understood that. In 2012, we took a big step, and he took a big step. We decided to tell our friends in our community, and some knew, but publicly, that Michael has CF. We hosted an event at our home, and we did it in our own way. Just because of our issues of being an adult, being a practitioner, everything that goes with that. We hosted a Derby Day party where we invited a great group of our friends. We had 75 that first year, and we auctioned off every horse, and all of the proceeds went straight to the CF Foundation. Michael and I covered the pot, and 10% of the pot went into the winner's hands. So we had a lot of great gambling going on and people feeling good about it. But what shocked us is we were like, okay, we're going to raise $5,000 or $6,000. This is going to be fun and easy. But when Michael got up and Michael told his story to all of our friends and family, I really believe it was a moment for him. To see him be able to tell that story and engage everybody was amazing. A weight was lifted off his shoulders, and our engagement with the CF Foundation really started to come into play. We raised $27,000 from 75 friends and family. We have decided to do it every other year. In 2014, we raised over $40,000. In 2016, we raised over $60,000. He is on the board. He has recruited amazing board members to serve along with him. I have now engaged with parents of CF children who want to help me with this event. It's just amazing. From 1997, when he didn't feel as an adult, he felt kind of like an orphan in the CF community. There weren't that many of them around, and he just didn't see the need for engagement. To today, 20 years later, what the CF Foundation has done and what the hope it has given us has just been mind-boggling. And we just feel so blessed to have it in our lives. And we are so proud to say it loud and proud that we are big community supporters of it. Thank you.
Stephanie. Okay. Can you hear me? This thing's not on. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so can you hear me now?
Oh, there it is.
Right? Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hold out.
Hello? Anyway, you guys can hear me. I can project. So hopefully, you see how when somebody tells their story, it's deeply personal, and we all connect with it, right? And so what I want you guys to think about now, and we're going to do a bit of an activity at your table groups, is spend some time thinking about what is it that motivates you, right? What is it that you're passionate about? And really think about the story that you want to tell. Because all of us, however we're connected, we're always amazed by the people who don't really have a direct connection with CF that are still here doing it. We heard from some last night and gave some great awards to people like that. But there's some reason that every person that's here is here, and that what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing. And so spend some time thinking about that, and then also think about, okay, who is it that I'm going to talk to, and what might motivate them? And so that's what the goal of these different scenarios are. And each table is going to focus on one scenario, and we'll do some sharing so people can think about it. But we want you to use the stories you just heard. So Colleen's story, Clay's story, Stephanie's story, and we've got some fake scenarios that I'll walk through in a second. And think about who is it that they're trying to pitch. How can I mold kind of the parts of that story with what this potential donor might be interested in? And the goal is, and we think if you have the right kind of level of preparation and you're thinking about the strategy and how you want to tell that story, we think it can be incredibly effective at fundraising, as you've just heard from what these guys have done, what Colleen has done, and what a lot of you have done over time. So if we go to the next slide, here's a couple things to get ready for in terms of getting ready to tell your story, right? So here's some of the important things. Confirm the meeting. Know the donor. That's what I was just talking about, right? So in these scenarios, you're going to see we're going to meet a very specific person. Know that donor. What's going to motivate them? Is it the heartfelt story of somebody who's a parent with CF? Is it the story of the progress of the foundation? Does somebody get really excited about the science? Is it the medical breakthroughs that we're having, and the fact that some of what we're doing as an organization not only has the ability to help CF, but has potentially dramatic impacts to all genetic diseases? So is it that excites them? So really know your donor, and then tell the story. Use the different aspects of the story to try to hit on the things that are going to matter to them, to get them hooked in and really invested in our cause. Make sure you ask questions, right? So you never want to go out to a meeting and be the one that's talking the entire time, right? So you got to be thoughtful about, tell your story, but give them the opportunity to ask questions. Give them the opportunity, to share. Kind of think of that 50-50 rule. 50% of the time should be kind of you leading it, and 50% of the time should be this donor. And so we've talked about matching the interests with the needs of the foundation. So I think all those things, and then the biggest thing, do the follow-up, right? Especially the first time you're meeting a donor or interacting with somebody that might be new. It's typically, Colleen had a great story, but that's a little unlikely, right? That all of a sudden someone who's never been involved all of a sudden decides to write a $5,000 check or a $10,000 check. And so there's kind of a gestation period, there's a cultivation process that takes some time. So always know and be thoughtful about the follow-up that needs to be done in order to make sure, we're successful in getting what we're asking for, right? So I think there's handouts at every table. So if you guys look at your handouts, what we're going to do is we're going to just spend the next 15 minutes and then, or maybe we'll do it in 10 minutes and this way we get a chance to share some stories. But so there's 3 scenarios. Let's see. Yeah, so you can tell by the handout number, whatever number's on your table, that's the one we want you to focus on. So your scenario is going to talk about a specific donor you're going to meet, and you're going to be using the stories you heard as kind of your strategizing, and then we'll call on some volunteers to share. So spend about 10 minutes doing this, and then we'll bring it back together. Okay, hopefully you guys found that helpful. We'd love to take a couple volunteers to talk about maybe one from each different session, or if there's more, to talk about what you guys came up with in terms of kind of strategizing for.
I think you might need this. Yeah, Lou.
Can you guys not hear me or no? No? I need this? Oh, okay. Darn it. Hello? Okay. All right. So who would like to volunteer? So let's do the first scenario, in case for those who didn't look at the first scenario. Colleen's longtime friend, college alumni, Hope, has consistently given in honor of her favorite little boy, Colleen's son, Brady. Recently, she found out that Hope established a charitable trust. The Hope Charitable Trust is required to give away 5% of their assets each year. The mission of the trust is to advance rare disease research. Colleen has scheduled a coffee meeting with Hope to ask for $10,000. So she's always been giving at a much lower level, $250, and now she wants to go ask for $10,000. So somebody that did scenario 1, where's one of my table ones, who would like to share kind of what they came up with? Yeah, I'll come down. I'll be like Phil Donahue. Yes, sir.
Rick Davis from Utah. I had a very similar situation to this, except I didn't have to make the ask. It was a good friend of mine, a good friend of the family's, and we'd grown up when I raised our kids together. And when my grandchildren were diagnosed, I immediately started sending out my emails to everyone with pictures and explanations of what's going on. And my good friend was paying $100, $150 a year. And then one day, the chapter called me up and said, "We just got $10,000 from the Wheeler Foundation. Do you know the Wheeler Foundation?" I said, "Yeah, it's his wife." And it basically, why, I think the reason why is because we were close, we were good friends, he had trust in me. It was not mechanical, it was not formal. It was because he knew I was their friend no matter what, and he had been involved, and mostly his wife and her family had been involved with seeing my grandchildren going on. So it came that year, and it came the next year, and it's come for 5 years. I think the most important thing is that they had trust in me and knew what was happening, and of course we thanked them. I'm not sure it would have been the same had I gone after them and targeted them and then felt like, bring somebody with, and this is just personal to me, but it was personal, it was passion, it was emotion, and that is where we're ahead of the other people with their hands out.
Anybody else? Anybody else from scenario 1 that would like to share? Yeah? Good. Did you just get volunteered?
Thanks, Laura. Pardon my back. Hi, everybody. I'm Fran Kaya. I work for the foundation in the Bethesda office for the wonderful Gina Shuey. We had a great group, a great discussion. We loved Colleen's story. We were so struck by her positivity and hopefulness and her sense of community. She's in this not just for Brady, but for everybody. And the fact that she got this meeting and had this friend Hope and this charitable trust that was the perfect match for the mission of the foundation, we just thought this was just a dream meeting. Loved her ambition to ask for the $10,000. We thought that what this donor would want to hear would be the great medical advancements, all the progress, the story of how we were founded by CF parents in 1955. We called it the double whammy, that they would be not only interested in the general mission of the foundation, but the fact that Brady has a nonsense mutation, that was a perfect match for what they focus on. And we thought the venture philanthropy model might be of interest to them too, for our approach to fighting this rare disease. Anyone else going to talk about Colleen? I feel like, local match. We thought that a local match could be. It was a big stretch to go from Hope's $250 to $10,000. So we thought that asking them to offer up a match in the community could be a good strategy. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Fran. Let's give Fran a big round of applause. All right, now we'll try to call on somebody from scenario 2. So again, my mic's not working, so I'll try to project. So Clay was meeting with a work colleague, Jim Moneybags, who's a financial investor known to be philanthropic, no connection or knowledge of CF, but Clay knows he's motivated by organizations that are using their investments wisely and are making notable progress. Jim does not like to attend charity events, but he does like recognition for his support. Clay has a lunch meeting. A lunch meeting with him to introduce him to the foundation, and was going to ask for a $10,000 annual fund match for his local chapter. So, who that worked on scenario 2 would like to speak? Pam.
Dang. So we said that some of the things that you need to convey to this donor, having no personal connection and being a business person, is obviously Clay would need to share a story and give that personal touch to it and really truly personalize it. But what are the benefits to Jim? It says he wants recognition, so that's something really important to keep in mind when you're talking to bigger donors. What is in it for them? It sounds bad, but it is what it is. So you need to play to that. And then how will the funds be used? That should definitely be conveyed. What does this money do? What does the CF Foundation do with their money? And he's a financial investor, so he wants to know that his investment is worth investing. He wants to know that it's a good cause. So in kind of what are the 3 things the donor wants to hear? Same thing. How will what he's giving make a difference? He wants to be okay, this is sounding stereotypical, but these bigger guys, for corporate matches and stuff like that, they want to know that they're going to make a difference. It's not just some random anonymous thing that's going into the abyss. And the important thing I think to really point out with this person is that it says they want to use it for a match at their local chapter. So explain the psychology behind that. You're going out to people and you're giving them that psychological angle that I have a $10,000 donor, and every up to $10,000 we can, you can give me 200, it turns into 400. You can give me 500, it turns into 1,000. So you show how that works, and that's going to be a benefit to each other person we go out to and generate that much more money because of what he's given to start it. The pitch and who should make the ask, obviously Clay would be there. We thought having his daughter there to actually share her story, bring in a cute girl, and and this sounds terrible. And we recognized this as we were writing it, but it is also what it is. It never hurts to have that damsel in distress and the white knight come in and save the day. And then the follow up, of course. We said Molly. Molly should be the follow up. She's amazing. And photos, PowerPoint if he seems like he's a sophisticated kind of dude, but photos are magical, and just your personal story.
Awesome. Thanks, Pam. So we can all see why Pam does such a good job of raising a lot of money, right? Somebody in the back had one that they wanted to share, and then I think we'll wrap it up. So we'll go over to this table over here. Christy.
We also had scenario 2. We had a lot of the similar answers on how Clay could handle the situation. 3 things that Clay could convey to the donor. Obviously, it's important to him how the funds are used and their effectiveness. He's results driven. Lots of progress has been made, but there's still lots of work to do. We wanted to make sure that he knew that and to convey that. Obviously, this person has no direct CF affiliation, so we wanted to thought it was important that he share his personal story of living day-to-day life with cystic fibrosis. And 3 things that the donor wants to hear. We had down that The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is one of the most fiscally responsible charity organizations, and to go into some details about that, obviously that was important to him, and that recognition is available for his contribution, and that could be made on the local chapter website, on social media, and you could offer advertising opportunities for his business. For the pitch, we would bring in visuals, show real advancements in the medical research, patient care, and where all the funding goes. We also said that you should bring your cute daughter to the meeting. That was very important for her to share from her perspective what life is like with CF. We also thought it was important if there was a follow-up meeting that Jim, Mr. Moneybags, bring any of his colleagues or affiliates that we might be able to share with also. We thought it would be nice to bring a one-page info or stat graphic sheet that maybe could show some real in-depth numbers, since he's familiar with that kind of information. And if he's not ready to make a commitment that day, we would make a follow-up phone call or invite him to an already previously scheduled event.
Okay, big round of applause for Christy. All right, so we're just coming up on time, so we'll try to bring it together and close it down. Tailoring your story, we talked about all this. I think the last point, if you just go to the next slide, how can the staff support you, right? So we all have our stories. We have an incredible staff. Here's a bunch of their pictures up on the screen. Make sure you use the resources. As you guys can see, taking the time to spend a few minutes thinking about the strategy of what you want to go after, it's important. The staff is here to help you, so make sure you take advantage of those resources. And I think I would leave you with just a couple minutes of, a final story for me, I guess. And I think, I'm always encouraged and motivated to come to this meeting every year. So when I think about what drives me, what motivates me, what's the reason that I come to this, what's the reason that I'm a national board of trustee member, that I do stuff locally, and one of those reasons is all you people. Every year, I love coming to this meeting to hear the great stories, panelists like Colleen, like Clay, like Stephanie, all the stuff we heard yesterday and you're going to continue to hear throughout today. That's a big driving force. It gives a lot of inspiration, and I think we all saw the power today that these stories can have. And the other thing that motivates me is my boys. It's a difficult, challenging thing, and my boys are both doing really well. And as a father, the thing that drives me more than anything is they both have big dreams. And I'll tell you a quick story about Michael and Dylan. So Michael was just lucky enough, he had a Make-A-Wish granted, and Michael is hugely passionate about, we call it soccer in the U.S., but football in the U.K. And Michael was lucky enough, the amazing Make-A-Wish Foundation made it all possible. We just went a week ago to Leicester City, which won the Premier League last year. And Michael got to meet his favorite soccer player. The guy was amazing, Riyad Mahrez. He actually played with him for like 15 minutes. He got to walk out of the tunnel with the players on game day last Saturday. And it was just such an amazing experience. And, his dream is to play professional soccer someday. And he's pretty good. I think they were actually impressed with some of his skills that he was able to show them. But what drives me is he's got that dream. And then I've got Dylan. Dylan is 8 years old. He's a competitive gymnast. And if anybody follows my wife Mary on Facebook, you've probably seen some of the videos of Dylan doing his gymnastics. But this little 8-year-old is like the strongest little thing I've ever seen. And he also amazes me in what he's doing. And his, their goals, they're not small goals. Michael doesn't want to make his high school soccer team. He wants to be a professional soccer player someday. And Dylan doesn't want to just, be a gymnast. He wants to be a gold medal winner. And I love that they have big dreams. And so, the thing that motivates me and drives me is, not letting them down and not letting CF get in the way of their dreams. So I am constantly driven by just the singular desire to make sure I do everything possible not to let them down And I know that it's going to take a lot of work for them to be able to make those dreams a reality, but I actually believe that both of those dreams can become a reality, and I'm going to do my part to make sure CF doesn't get in the way of that. And I thank all of you for doing your parts, and I think it's about figuring out what is that thing that drives you. Why are you here? Once you figure out what that is, it's very easy to do what we do, and it's very easy for me it was easy for me to get up at 3:30 a.m. yesterday to get on a flight to get here in the morning to be a part of this meeting, because I always leave this meeting incredibly encouraged. And so I just challenge you to think about that as you leave, and remember, what is that driving force in your life that wants you to make a difference? And this is an organization that we can be incredibly proud of, and know that great things are happening and are going to continue to happen, and it's because of those stories. It's because of people like our amazing panelists, and it's frankly because of all of you. So I thank you very much for being a part of this today, and enjoy the rest of today and the boot, scoot, and boogie later on tonight. So thank you, guys.